Hand over the $20,000 I spent renovating your old house." Victoria was screaming in the middle of my living room. Her voice bounced off the freshly painted walls, those very walls she had ordered to be painted herself. Her face was beet red with rage, her fists clenched tight at her sides. Caleb, my son, stood behind her. Silent, motionless, looking anywhere but at me. I was sitting in my recliner, the same chair where I had spent so many afternoons hemming clothes for my children when they were little. The same chair where I cried over my husband's death. The same chair where I received the news that Caleb was getting married. And now, in that exact spot, my daughter-in-law was demanding money from me as if I owed her something. Did you hear me, Eleanor? $20,000, that is what I invested in this house, in fixing everything that was falling apart, and now that I am divorcing your son, I want my money back. It is the bare minimum. The bare minimum. That phrase made me take a deep breath. Because if we were talking about the bare minimum, I would have to remind her that barely 6 months ago I paid for their entire wedding. Everything. The reception hall, the flowers, the catering for 200 guests, the dress she chose that cost more than I earned in 3 months. I also paid for the honeymoon in Maui. 10 days, a 5-star resort. All inclusive. I spent my entire life savings. Money I had gathered over years of working in other people's houses. Scrubbing, cooking, ironing. Money I put away thinking about my old age, about some emergency, about having a little peace of mind after so much sacrifice. But it was my son's wedding. My only son. And when he asked me for help, with that soft voice he had used since he was a boy, I could not say no. He told me Victoria was the love of his life, that he wanted to give her a wedding she would never forget, that he would thank me forever. Forever lasted 6 months. Now she was standing in front of me, demanding $20,000 because she had renovated my own house. A house my husband and I bought 30 years ago. A small, old house, yes, but mine. Victoria had said she could not live in a place like this. That the walls had water damage. That the kitchen was outdated. That the bathroom looked like it was from another era. Caleb begged me to let her fix everything. He said they would pay for it, that I should not worry. And now she was here, collecting the bill. Eleanor, do not play deaf. I am talking to you. Victoria took a step toward me. Her expensive perfume filled the space between us. $20,000. Today, right now. I looked at Caleb. I waited for him to say something. To defend me. To remind his wife, ex-wife, that I had paid for their entire marriage. To tell her that this was not right. But he just shook his head and sighed. Mom, it is only fair. She invested that money. I felt something break inside my chest. It was not physical pain. It was something else, something deeper. The sensation that the son I raised, the boy I carried in my arms, the young man I consoled after every stumble, no longer existed. In his place stood a man I did not recognize. Okay, I said. Victoria looked surprised. I think she expected me to scream, to cry, to beg. But I just stood up slowly from the recliner. My knees cracked. I am 72 years old, and my body is not what it used to be. I walked to my bedroom, toward the small closet where I keep my important things. There, in an old shoebox, I had what was left of my savings. After paying for the wedding and the honeymoon, I had managed to scrape together a little more, bit by bit, saving from here and there, thinking that maybe one day I might need it for medication, for an emergency. I counted the money. $20,000, exactly. Each bill represented hours of work, of exhaustion, of sacrifice. I put it in an envelope and went back to the living room. Victoria and Caleb were still there. She had that triumphant expression. He had a lost look in his eyes. I handed her the envelope without saying a word. She opened it, counted the cash quickly, and smiled. It was the right thing to do, Eleanor. I hope you understand. I did not answer. I just watched them leave my house. I heard the sound of the car starting up, and I was left alone, in the silence of these renovated walls that now seemed foreign to me. I sat back down in my recliner. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, not from sadness, It was something else, something I had not felt in a long time. Rage, but a cold rage, silent, the kind that does not explode, the kind that waits. That night I did not sleep. I stayed awake thinking about everything that had happened, about how I got here, about how a 72-year-old woman who worked her whole life, who raised her son alone after becoming a widow, ended up being treated like she was worth nothing. I thought about my husband, about how he used to tell me, "Eleanor, you are stronger than you think," and perhaps he was right, because something inside me changed that night. Something that had been asleep for years woke up. It was not revenge, not exactly. It was justice, the justice that no one else was going to give me. The next day, Victoria would arrive at her job. She had an important position at a real estate firm. She always bragged about her office, her salary, her status. But what she did not know is that I had worked too, and that in those years of cleaning houses, of cooking for other families, of ironing other people's clothes, I met a lot of people who owed me favors, people who never forgot what I did for them. And one of those people worked exactly where Victoria worked. That night I sat in the darkness of my living room. I did not turn on the lights, I did not turn on the television. I just sat there, in the silence, letting the memories come one after another like waves I could not stop. I remembered the day Caleb was born. It was a difficult delivery. I was in labor for 18 hours. My husband James waited outside that whole time, pacing from one side of the hospital hallway to the other. When he finally heard our son's cry, he came in with his eyes full of tears. "He is perfect, Eleanor," he told me. "He is perfect." And he was. Or at least I believed he was. Caleb was a calm baby. He did not cry much. He slept well. But he was attached to me in a way that sometimes scared me. He did not want anyone else to hold him, only me. When James tried to take him in his arms, Caleb would start to cry until I took him back. "You will see," my husband would tell me, laughing. "When he grows up, he is going to be a mama's boy." He was right. Caleb grew up being my shadow. He followed me everywhere. When I cooked, he was there, standing on a chair, watching everything I did. When I cleaned, he wanted to help with his little toy broom. When I went out to shop, he grabbed my hand and would not let go for anything in the world. James worked in a factory, long shifts, sometimes doubles. He wanted to give us a good life, and he managed it. We were not rich, but we had enough. We had this house. We had food on the table. We had clean clothes. We had love, until we stopped having it all. Caleb was 11 years old when James died. It was an accident at the factory, a machine that malfunctioned, an error that cost him his life. They called me at noon. I remember I was making lunch, macaroni and cheese. Caleb loved mac and cheese. The phone rang and a voice on the other end told me words I did not want to understand. "We are very sorry, Mrs. Collins. There was an accident. Your husband did not survive." Did not survive, as if he had been in a war, as if he had had a chance to fight, but he did not have it. James died instantly. That was the only good thing, they told me later. That he did not suffer, but we did suffer. Caleb changed after his father's death. He became quieter, more serious. He no longer played like before. He no longer smiled with the same ease. He locked himself in his room for hours. I tried to talk to him, but he only told me he was fine, that I should not worry. But I worried. He was my son, my only son, and he had just lost his father. The pension they gave me for James's death was not enough. It barely covered the basics. So I started working. First in one house, cleaning twice a week, then in another, and in one more. Soon I was working in 4 different houses. Mondays and Thursdays at Mrs. Miller's house, Tuesdays and Fridays at the Sanders house, Wednesdays at Mr. Thompson's house, Saturdays at the O'Malley family's house. I scrubbed floors. I cleaned bathrooms. I ironed mountains of clothes. I cooked when they asked me to. I arrived home so tired that I could barely keep my eyes open. But I did it. For Caleb. So he could keep studying. So he would have clean clothes. So he would have food on his plate. Caleb finished high school. Not with the best grades, but he finished. I wanted him to go to college. I had saved a little money for that, but he told me he did not want to study anymore, that he wanted to work, that he wanted to help me, and he did. He got a job at an electronics store. He did not earn much, but it was something. He gave me a little money every month. For the house, Mom, he told me. And I accepted it because I knew that made him feel useful, to feel like the man of the house that his father could no longer be. The years passed. Caleb continued working in different places. He never stayed long in the same spot. There was always some reason. That the boss was unfair, that the coworkers were problematic, that the salary was not enough. I listened to him and supported him because he was my son, because I thought he was looking for something better. I kept working. My knees started to hurt. My back, too. The doctors told me it was normal at my age, that I had worked too much, that I needed to rest more. But I could not rest. I needed the money. I needed to make sure Caleb was okay. When Caleb turned 35, I started to worry that he would never get married. He never brought girlfriends home. He never talked about any special woman. He lived with me, in his same old room, working different jobs that never seemed to last, until he met Victoria. He was 38 when he spoke to me about her for the first time. Mom, I met someone, he told me one night during dinner. His eyes shone in a way I had not seen in years. Her name is Victoria. She is incredible. She works in real estate. She is smart, successful, beautiful. I think she is the one. I was happy for him. I truly was. I thought he had finally found someone who would make him happy, someone with whom he could build a life, someone who would take care of him when I was no longer here. Victoria came to dinner at the house a week later. She arrived in a new car, wearing expensive clothes, with that perfume that filled the entire room. She was pretty, that I could not deny, and she talked a lot. About her work, about her achievements, about the places she had traveled. I listened and nodded, serving her more food, trying to be a good hostess. But there was something in her eyes that I did not like, something cold, something calculating, the way she looked at the house, as if she were evaluating every corner. The way she looked at Caleb, as if she were measuring his worth. I tried to ignore that feeling. I told myself it was just nerves, that I was being an overprotective mother, that I had to let my son live his life. 6 months later, Caleb told me he was getting married. So soon, I asked him. I could not help it. Mom, when you know she is the right one, there is no point in waiting, he answered. And there was so much conviction in his voice that I did not want to argue. And where are you going to live? I asked. He stayed silent for a moment. Then he looked at me with those eyes I knew so well. The same eyes he used to ask me for things when he was a boy. Well, Victoria thought we could live here, with you, at least for a while, until we save up for our own place. My heart sank a little, not because I did not want them to stay, but because I knew what would come next. I knew Victoria would not want to live in this old house. I knew she would ask for changes, and I was right. But there is a problem, Mom, Caleb continued. The house needs renovations. Victoria says she cannot live here like this. And she is willing to pay for everything. To fix the walls, change the kitchen, renovate the bathroom, everything. Caleb, this is my house, I told him softly. I know, Mom, but think of it as an investment. The house will be better. It will be worth more. And Victoria just wants us to be comfortable. I accepted because I did not know how to refuse. Because he was my son. Because I wanted him to be happy. The renovation started 2 months before the wedding. Victoria hired the workers. She chose the colors, the materials, everything. I just watched how my house was transformed into something I no longer recognized. The walls where I had marked Caleb's height every year of his childhood were covered with new paint. The kitchen where I had prepared thousands of meals was demolished and replaced. Everything changed, and I let it change. Then came the conversation about the wedding. Caleb and Victoria invited me to dinner at a fancy restaurant, one of those places where the waiters wear ties and the portions are small but expensive. I felt out of place in my simple dress, but they insisted I go. Eleanor, we want to talk to you about the wedding, Victoria said after our food was served. She had that smile I was starting to know, Sweet on the outside, calculating on the inside. Of course, tell me, I replied, trying to sound enthusiastic. Well, we have been planning everything. And we want a beautiful wedding. Something memorable. Something our guests will never forget. Victoria took Caleb's hand across the table. The problem is that the costs are higher than we thought. Caleb looked at me. Mom, I know it is a lot to ask, but we were wondering if you could help us. Just a little. With whatever you can. My heart tightened. I knew exactly how much I had saved. $23,000. Money I had saved for years. Each bill represented hours of work, aching knees, hands cracked by bleach and cleaning products. How much do you need? I asked, although I already knew the answer would not please me. Victoria pulled a folder from her purse. She opened it and showed me a list. The event hall costs $8,000. The food for 200 guests is $12,000. The flowers, the music, the photographer, all that adds up to another $7,000. And then there is the honeymoon. We want to go to Maui. 10 days at a resort, all inclusive. Those are another $8,000. I did the math mentally. $35,000 in total. I can put in $10,000, Victoria said quickly. And Caleb has another $5,000 saved. But we are short $20,000. Exactly almost everything I had. You do not have to give us everything, Caleb added. Whatever you can help with, Mom. Anything. I looked at both of them. I saw the hope in my son's eyes. I saw the expectation in Victoria's eyes. And I could not refuse. Because it was my only son's wedding. Because I thought you only get married once. Because I wanted him to be happy. I can give you $20,000, I said finally. Victoria almost jumped out of her seat. Seriously? Oh, Eleanor, you are amazing. Isn't your mom amazing, Caleb? Caleb nodded, but he did not look me in the eyes. And I should have noticed it in that moment. I should have seen that sign, but I was too busy trying to convince myself that I was doing the right thing. The wedding was exactly how Victoria planned it. Big, luxurious, full of people I did not know. I sat at a table near the front, wearing a new dress I bought for the occasion. The last money I had left I spent on that dress because I did not want to embarrass Caleb. During the reception, Victoria introduced her friends. They all wore expensive dresses and shiny jewelry. They talked about trips, about exclusive restaurants, about things I had never experienced. I smiled and nodded, feeling smaller and smaller. Caleb danced with Victoria. They looked happy, or at least he looked happy. Victoria looked triumphant, as if she had won something. After the wedding and the honeymoon, they moved into my house, into the renovated house that no longer seemed mine. Victoria brought her furniture, her decorations, her rules. Eleanor, I hope you do not mind, but I put some of my things in the living room. It is just that the style you had was a bit outdated. I did not say anything. I just nodded and retreated to my room, the only space that still felt like mine. The first 2 months were strange. Victoria worked all day and arrived late. Caleb also started arriving later than before. I cooked, I cleaned, I tried not to be in the way. I felt like a guest in my own home. Then I started noticing strange things. Victoria and Caleb arguing in hushed voices. When I entered the room, they would shut up immediately and smile at me. Everything is fine, Eleanor. We were just talking about work. But it did not sound like a conversation about work. There was tension in the air. Something was not right. One night, I heard Victoria talking on the phone in her room. Her voice was different, harder, colder. Do not worry. Everything is going according to plan. I just need a little more time. I moved away quickly before she caught me listening, but those words stayed with me. What plan? Plan for what? The next day, Victoria was especially nice to me. She made me coffee. She asked me how I had slept. She told me the house looked beautiful and that it was thanks to me keeping it so clean. I was suspicious. That sudden kindness did not seem genuine. A week later, Caleb asked to speak to me alone. We sat in the living room. He looked nervous. He toyed with his hands like he used to do when he was a boy and had broken something. Mom, I need to tell you something, he began. Victoria and we have been talking, and I think maybe we got married too quickly. I am not sure this is going to work. I froze. "What are you saying, Caleb? I think I am going to file for divorce." The word fell between us like a heavy stone. Divorce. After 6 months. After I spent all my savings on their perfect wedding. But why? What happened? I asked. Although a part of me already knew something had been wrong from the beginning. We just aren't compatible. She wants things I cannot give her. And I am not happy, Mom. I wanted to console him. I wanted to tell him everything would be okay. But there was something in his tone that did not convince me. Something rehearsed. As if he were repeating words someone else had told him. "Is this what you want? Or is it what she wants?" I asked directly. Caleb did not answer. He just lowered his gaze. The next day, Victoria arrived with 2 friends. The 3 of them walked into the house as if they owned the place. I was in the kitchen making tea when I heard them talking in the living room. "I cannot believe you lived here with that horrible decor," one of them was saying. "I know," Victoria replied. "But I already did the renovations it needed. Now the house is worth much more. $20,000 I invested, every penny documented." "And what are you going to do now?" the other friend asked. Victoria laughed, a laugh that froze my blood. "I am going to recover my investment. It is the bare minimum I deserve after this failed marriage." I stood motionless behind the kitchen door, listening, slowly understanding what was happening. "Do you think she has the money?" one of the friends asked. "Of course she has it. Caleb told me his mom has always been a saver. She has to have something put away. And if not, let her sell something. It is not my problem." The 3 of them laughed. I felt the floor moving under my feet. Everything was starting to make sense. The rush to get married. The renovations I never asked for. The expensive wedding they insisted on having. It had all been planned. I walked out of the kitchen making noise so they would know I was there. The 3 of them shut up immediately. Victoria smiled at me. "Eleanor, I did not know you were here. Let me introduce you to my friends." I did not answer. I just looked at them. And in that moment, I knew I had to prepare for what was coming. That night, when everyone was sleeping, I took out all my important documents, the deed to the house, the receipts for everything I had paid, my bank statements. I put them in a safe place. Something told me I was going to need them. 2 days later, Caleb told me he and Victoria had decided to officially divorce, that everything would be quick and civilized, that there was no need for complicated lawyers. And a week after that, Victoria appeared in my living room screaming, demanding her $20,000. After Victoria and Caleb left with the money, I stayed alone in that living room. I no longer recognized as mine. The new walls, the furniture she had brought. Everything reminded me that I had been a fool, an old fool who believed her son loved her enough not to betray her. I sat in the recliner, and for the first time in many years I cried. It was not a loud cry. It was silent, the kind that hurts in your chest and leaves you breathless. I cried for the lost money. I cried for the expensive wedding I paid for. I cried for the broken illusions. But above all, I cried for my son, for the boy he once was, and for the man he had become. When I ran out of tears, I stayed looking at the ceiling, thinking, remembering every detail of the last few months. And that was when I started seeing the signs I had ignored. Victoria's rush to get married. Her insistence on renovating the house before the wedding. The way she documented every renovation expense with perfectly organized receipts. The whispered conversations that stopped when I walked in. The phone call where she mentioned the plan. It had not been a marriage. It had been a business deal. And I had been the investment. I stood up slowly. My knees protested, but I ignored them. I went to my room and took out the box where I kept my important documents. I opened it and started reviewing everything carefully. The wedding receipts, the proofs of payments I made, the bank transfers. Everything was there. Evidence of every penny I spent on that marriage that lasted 6 months. Then I took out another envelope, one I had saved a long time ago and had almost forgotten. It contained information that could be useful. Phone numbers of people I met over the years. People who owed me favors. People who never forgot when I helped them in their most difficult moments. One of those people was Maya Rivera. Maya had worked with me years ago at the Sanders family's house. She was young back then, barely 20, and was going through a terrible time. Her husband had left her with 2 small children and no money. She had nowhere to live. She was desperate. I helped her. I gave her money from my own savings so she could pay the rent on a small apartment. I got her work in the houses where I cleaned. I watched her children when she had double shifts. I never asked her to pay back the money. I never asked for anything in return. Maya never forgot. She told me every time we met, "Eleanor, if you ever need anything at all, just call me. I owe you my life." I always downplayed it. "You do not owe me anything, dear. I only helped like anyone would have done." But now I needed that favor. I looked for her number in my old address book. My hands were shaking as I dialed. The phone rang 3 times before she answered. "Hello." "Maya, it is Eleanor. Eleanor Collins." There was a moment of silence. Then her voice filled with warmth. "Eleanor, how long has it been? How are you? Is everything okay? I need to speak with you. Can we meet?" Her tone changed immediately. It became serious. "Of course. When and where?" "Tomorrow? At the coffee shop on the corner by my house? I will be there. At 10 in the morning." I hung up the phone and took a deep breath. I did not know exactly what I was going to ask her. I just knew I needed help, and Maya was the only person I could trust right now. That night I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Victoria's face when she counted the money, that expression of triumph, as if she had just won a bet. And I saw Caleb behind her, silent, not defending me, not even looking at me. I got up early. I showered, dressed in my best clothes, combed my hair carefully. I wanted to look dignified, strong, even though inside I felt destroyed. I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early. I ordered a tea and sat at a table in the back. My hands would not stop shaking. I tried to calm them, holding them tightly in my lap. Maya arrived exactly at 10. I saw her walk in and was impressed. She was no longer the thin, scared girl I knew years ago. Now she was a self-assured woman. She wore professional clothes. Her hair was perfectly styled. She looked successful. She saw me and her face lit up. She walked quickly toward me and hugged me. "Eleanor, let me look at you. You are just as beautiful." I tried to smile. "I am not the same anymore, Maya. The years are unforgiving." "Nonsense. You look good." She sat in front of me and took my hands in hers. "Now tell me, what happened? I could tell you were worried on the phone." And then I told her everything. From the moment Caleb met Victoria until the day before, when they took my last savings. I told her about the expensive wedding, about the renovations, about the sudden divorce, about the $20,000. I told her everything without crying, with a steady voice, as if I were narrating someone else's story. Maya listened without interrupting. Her expression went from surprise to indignation to rage. When I finished, she squeezed my hands tightly. "Eleanor, that is. I have no words. Your own son did that to you. I know. And what do you plan to do?" "I do not know. That is why I called you. I need to think. I need to understand what really happened. If this was planned from the beginning, or if they just took advantage of the circumstances." Maya stayed quiet for a moment. Then she said something I did not expect. "Eleanor, I work at the same company as Victoria." I froze. "What?" "Yes, I work at Premier Properties. It is a real estate firm. Victoria has worked there for 2 years. She is a sales agent." My heart started beating faster. "Do you know her?" "I know her. We are not friends, but we work in the same building. I see her every day." Maya leaned forward. "I heard things about her." "What things?" "Things that might interest you. Things that could help you understand the situation better." I felt a spark of hope. "Tell me." Maya looked around to make sure no one was listening. Then she lowered her voice. "Victoria has a reputation in the office. A reputation for being calculating, for using people to get what she wants. There are rumors that she has done this before." "Done what?" "Married for convenience. There was a guy a few years ago, an older man, divorced, with money. They got married quickly. Lasted less than a year. When they divorced, she kept a house and a car, all legal, all documented. He could not do anything because she was smart with the paperwork." I felt my blood run cold. "Are you saying this is something she does regularly?" "I do not have proof. Just rumors. But office rumors usually have some truth to them. And no one has done anything? No one has reported her? Maya shook her head. She is very careful. Always within the law. Always with documents protecting her. It is hard to prove there was bad intent. I leaned back in the chair. It all made sense now. Victoria did not choose Caleb for love. She chose him because she saw an opportunity. A man with a widowed mother, with her own house, with savings. A perfect victim. I need to know more, I said. I need to know if this was planned. If Caleb was involved from the beginning, or if she manipulated him too. Maya nodded. I can help you with that. I can keep my eyes and ears open at the office. See what Victoria says. Who she talks to. If she mentions anything about your son or you would do that for me? Eleanor, you saved me when I needed it most. This is the least I can do. She stood up and hugged me again. Give me a few days. I am going to investigate, and I promise that if I find something, you will be the first to know. I left the coffee shop feeling different. Not better exactly, but with a purpose. I was no longer just a victim. Now I was someone seeking answers, someone who was not going to sit idly by. I went back home and started organizing everything. I took out all the documents, all the receipts, all the proofs of payment. I ordered them by date. I made copies of everything. I kept the originals in a safe place and the copies in another. If this had been a plan, then I would have mine too. 4 days passed. 4 days in which I barely left the house. 4 days in which I reviewed every document over and over, memorizing dates, amounts, details. 4 days in which Caleb did not call even once to ask how I was. On the morning of the 5th day, my phone rang. It was Maya. Eleanor, I need to see you. Today. Right now, if possible. Her voice sounded urgent, almost scared. What happened? I cannot talk on the phone. Can you come to my apartment? I will text you the address. I am on my way. I got ready quickly and took a cab. Maya's apartment was in a modern building downtown. When I arrived, she was waiting for me at the door. She looked nervous. She kept looking down both ends of the hallway as if she feared someone had followed her. Come in quickly, she told me, pulling me by the arm. Inside her apartment, she took me straight to the living room. On the coffee table, there was an open laptop and several papers scattered around. Sit down, she told me. You need to hear this. I sat down and she sat next to me. She took a deep breath before starting to speak. Eleanor, you were right. It was all planned. From the beginning. I felt as if I had been punched in the stomach. It was one thing to suspect it, another very different thing to hear the confirmation. How do you know? Maya picked up her phone. Yesterday, Victoria arrived at the office very happy. She was bragging to her friends. I was at the desk next door, pretending to be busy, but listening to everything. She told them she had just recovered $20,000 from her mother-in-law. They were laughing, celebrating. My chest tightened, but I said nothing. I let her continue. Then she said something that froze my blood. She said, "The plan worked perfectly. Caleb did exactly what I told him." One of her friends asked if she didn't feel bad doing that to an old woman. And do you know what Victoria answered? I shook my head. She said, "Business is business." She had money. I needed that money. Besides, I invested in the house. Now it is worth more. Technically, I helped her. And they all laughed. I closed my eyes. Hearing those words hurt more than I imagined. But there is more, Maya continued. After lunch, I went to the restroom. Victoria was there talking on the phone. She did not see me enter because she was inside one of the stalls. And I heard the whole conversation. Who was she talking to? To Caleb. My son. What were they saying? Maya showed me her phone. I recorded it. Everything. I thought you would need it. She pressed play, and I heard Victoria's voice coming out of the phone. I already have the money. 20,000 exactly. Yes, she gave it to me without a fight. It was easier than we thought. No, I do not think she suspects anything. She is too devastated. Of course I am going to give you your share. Just like we agreed. 10,000 for you, 10,000 for me. Caleb, do not get nervous now. Everything went perfectly. In 2 weeks you can go back to the house if you want. She will not have money to kick you out anymore. I already did my part. I got her to renovate the house. I paid with her money indirectly when she paid for our wedding. And now I recovered the renovation investment. Now the house is worth double. When she dies, you inherit a property worth much more than it was before. I do not care if you feel guilty. You were the one who sought me out with this plan, remember? You told me your mom had savings. You convinced me to do it. Good. We meet on Saturday to split the money. And remember, no contact until then. We do not want her to suspect. The recording ended. I sat there, motionless, listening to the words over and over in my mind. Caleb was the one who sought her out. Caleb planned all of this. My son, my only son. The child I carried in my womb. The child I raised alone after his father died. The child I gave everything to. He had sold me for $10,000. Eleanor, are you okay? Maya's voice sounded far away. I was not okay. Nothing was okay, but I nodded anyway. There is more, Maya said softly. I investigated a little. I spoke to people who have known Victoria for a long time. Turns out she has a history. She has done this before with other men. She marries, takes what she can, divorces, all legal, all documented. She is an expert, and Caleb knew it. According to what I heard on that call, he contacted her. He knew what she did, and he thought he could use her to take money from his own mother. I felt nauseous. I wanted to vomit. I wanted to scream. But I did none of that. I just sat there, processing the biggest betrayal of my life. I also got this. Maya showed me several papers. These are public records. After Victoria's previous divorce, she filed a lawsuit against her ex-husband for property improvement. She won. It is her method. She gets married, renovates the family home, pays with her own well-documented money, and when she divorces, she demands reimbursement. It always works because technically she did invest her money. I looked at the papers without really seeing them. My mind was elsewhere. It was remembering every moment with Caleb, every sacrifice I made, every time I worked until I was exhausted, every time I skipped meals so he could eat better, every time I cried in silence so he would not see me suffer. All for this. Eleanor, Maya touched my shoulder gently. I know this is terrible. I know it hurts. But now that we know the truth, we can do something. I looked up at her. What can I do? She has her documents, her receipts. Everything is legal, like you said. Legal does not mean moral. Legal does not mean just. And above all, there is something in that recording that changes everything. What? Fraud. Conspiracy. Caleb and she planned this together. That is not just a normal divorce. That is a scheme to take money from you. With that recording, with the documents you have, with witnesses to her behavior, we could build a case. A legal case. Yes, you could sue them. Both of them. For fraud, for conspiracy, for elder financial abuse. There are laws that protect you. Eleanor, I processed her words slowly. Sue my own son? Take him to court? The idea seemed impossible just days ago. But now, after hearing that recording, after knowing he planned everything from the start, something inside me changed. I know a lawyer, Maya continued. His name is David Ross. He is very good. He specializes in fraud and financial abuse cases. He could meet with you. Just to talk. To see what options you have. I looked at Maya. This woman I helped years ago was now here, helping me when I needed it most. It was ironic. My own son betrayed me, but a stranger held out her hand. Okay, I said finally. I want to speak to that lawyer. Maya smiled with relief. I will give you his number. And Eleanor, there is something else you should know. What? Victoria is going to be at the office all day tomorrow. She has an important presentation with some clients. If we do this, if you decide to proceed with legal action, tomorrow would be the perfect day for her to be served with the papers, in front of her bosses, in front of her clients, in front of everyone. For the first time in days, I felt something resembling satisfaction. It was not happiness, it was something colder, more calculated. Call the lawyer, I said. I want to see him today. Right now, if possible. Maya nodded and picked up her phone. She spoke quickly, explaining the situation in general terms. When she hung up, she looked at me. "He can see you in 2 hours. At his office? I will be there." I left Maya's apartment with the recording on my phone, with copies of all the documents she had obtained, and with a new determination. I was no longer the old fool who let herself be tricked. Now I was someone who was going to fight. During the cab ride to the lawyer's office, I listened to the recording one more time. Each word from Caleb was a blow, but I was not crying anymore. The pain was transforming into something different, into strength, into clarity, into justice. When I arrived at David Ross's office, a kind secretary greeted me. She offered me coffee. She asked me to wait a few minutes. I sat in the waiting room with my bag full of documents, preparing to tell my story once more. David Ross was a man of about 50. He had gray hair at his temples and a serious but kind look. He ushered me into his office and offered me a seat across from his desk. "Mrs. Collins, Maya explained a bit of your situation. But I need you to tell me everything from the beginning, with all the details you can remember." And that is what I did. I told him the whole story, from when Caleb met Victoria until the day they took the $20,000. I showed him all the documents, the wedding receipts, the proofs of payment for the honeymoon, the bank transfers, everything. Then I showed him the recording. David listened to it completely without interrupting. When it finished, he leaned back in his chair and exhaled slowly. "Mrs. Collins, this is serious, very serious. What your son and your ex-daughter-in-law did is not just morally reprehensible. It is illegal. What can I do?" "Several things. First, this constitutes fraud. There was deliberate deception for the purpose of financial gain. Second, there is conspiracy. Your son and Victoria planned this together. And third, there is financial abuse of an elder. You are 72 years old. There are specific laws that protect you." I felt something inside me ease. I was not crazy. It had not been my imagination. What they did to me was a crime. "Can I sue them?" "You can, and you should. With this evidence, we have a solid case. The recording is key. It proves premeditation, that this was planned. It was not a normal divorce followed by a legitimate request for reimbursement. It was a criminal scheme. What will happen to them? If we win, and I believe we will, they will have to return all the money. The $20,000 for the renovations. The $20,000 you paid for the wedding and the honeymoon. Everything. Additionally, they could face criminal charges. Fraud is a serious crime. They could go to prison. The word prison echoed in my mind. My son in prison. Part of me twisted in pain at that image. But another part, the part that had heard that recording, knew it was fair. How long will all this take? It depends. We could resolve it in a few months if they accept a settlement, or it could take more than a year if we go to trial. But, Mrs. Collins, I need you to be sure. Once we start this, there is no turning back. Your son will know you sued him. Your relationship with him will change forever. I thought about that. About Caleb. About the boy he was. About the man he became. About the betrayal. About the words he said in that recording. My relationship with him already changed forever, I said finally. He sold me for $10,000. There is no turning back from that. David nodded. Then we will start immediately. I need you to sign some documents. I am going to prepare the lawsuit today, and tomorrow, as Maya suggested, we will have Victoria served at her job. And Caleb. We will serve him at the same time. Do you know where he is currently living? He still has some things at my house, but I think he is staying with a friend. We will find his address. Do not worry. We will find them. I spent the next hour signing papers, authorizations, declarations, everything the lawyer needed to proceed. When we finished, David walked me to the door. Mrs. Collins, one last thing. Prepare your house. It is possible your son will try to go get his things after being served. It is possible he will be furious. Have someone with you. Do not be alone. I nodded. I will. I left that office feeling different. I was no longer a victim. Now I was someone taking action, someone demanding justice. I called Maya from the cab. I already spoke with the lawyer. We are proceeding. Are you sure, Eleanor? Completely sure. Then I support you. I need you to be with me tomorrow. Yes, please. I do not want to be alone when Caleb finds out. I will be there. Early. That night, at my house, I prepared everything. I put all my important documents in a safety deposit box at the bank. I made copies of everything and left them with Maya. I changed the locks on the house. I hired a locksmith who came that same night and replaced all the locks. Caleb would no longer have access to my house without my permission. I also wrote a letter. Not to Caleb. I was not ready for that yet. I wrote a letter to myself, words I needed to remember in the difficult days to come. Eleanor, you are worth more than the money they took from you. You are worth more than the betrayal you suffered. You are strong. You survived your husband's death. You raised a son alone. You worked for decades without complaining. This situation does not define you. Your response to it does. Do not give up. Fight for what is yours. Fight for your dignity. I folded the letter and put it in my nightstand drawer. Then I went to bed, although I knew I would not sleep much. I was right. I spent most of the night awake, staring at the ceiling, imagining what would happen the next day. How would Victoria react when they handed her the papers? How would Caleb react? Part of me still felt pain. I still loved my son despite everything. But another part of me, the part that was now stronger, knew this was necessary. I could not let them treat me like this. I could not let them get away with it. At 6 in the morning, I got up. I bathed carefully. I dressed in my best clothes. I combed my hair. I put on a little makeup. I wanted to look strong. I wanted to feel strong. Maya arrived at 8. She brought coffee and pastries. We ate breakfast together in silence. She understood that I needed to be in my thoughts. At 9, my phone rang. It was David. Mrs. Collins, the process server is on the way to Victoria's office. He will arrive at approximately 10 o'clock. That is the time she has her important presentation. Everything is coordinated. Thank you. Are you okay? Do you have someone with you? Yes, my friend Maya is here. Perfect. Now we just wait. I will call you when the service is complete. I hung up and looked at Maya. It has begun. She took my hand. I am proud of you, Eleanor. Many women in your situation would do nothing. They would stay quiet. They would accept the abuse. But you are fighting. That requires courage. I do not feel brave. I feel scared. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite the fear. We sat in the living room, waiting. The minutes passed slowly. Every time I looked at the clock, it seemed like time had stopped. At 10:30, my phone rang again. It was David. It is done. Victoria was served. According to the server, she was in the middle of a meeting with important clients. She went very pale when she read the documents. She tried to act as if it were nothing, but everyone in the room noticed her change in attitude. I felt cold satisfaction. And Caleb? He was also served. At his current job, he tried calling you several times, but I see you did not answer. I looked at my phone. I had 12 missed calls from Caleb. I am not going to answer. It is your right. You do not have to talk to him if you do not want to. Everything will be done through lawyers now. Thank you, David. I hung up and looked at Maya. They know. Both of them. How do you feel? I thought about that question. How did I feel? Not happy exactly, but relieved, as if for the first time in months I could breathe. I feel free, I said finally. The calls did not stop. All day long, Caleb tried to communicate with me. First it was calls, then text messages, then voicemails. I did not answer any of them. Maya stayed with me all afternoon, making me tea, sitting beside me in silence, letting me process everything that was happening. At 5 in the afternoon, someone knocked on the door insistently. Heavy blows, desperate. Maya and I looked at each other. We knew who it was. Do not open it, Maya told me. You do not have to see him if you do not want to. But I needed to see him. I needed to look him in the eye after everything he had done. I got up and walked toward the door. Maya followed me, staying close in case I needed her. I opened the door. Caleb was there, face red, sweating, with the lawsuit papers crumpled in his hand. What is this, Mom? His voice came out like a scream. Are you suing me? Me. Your own son. I looked at him without saying anything. I let the silence stretch between us. I let him feel that weight. Answer me. He tried to enter, but the security chain I had installed stopped the door. We have to talk. We have nothing to talk about, Caleb, I said finally. My voice came out calmer than I expected. Colder. How can you do this? I am your son, your only son, and you sold me for $10,000. He froze. The color drained from his face. What are you talking about? I know everything, Caleb. I know you planned everything from the beginning. I know you sought out Victoria because you knew what she did. I know you told her how much money I had saved. I know you convinced her to marry you to take everything from me. That is not true. Who told you those lies? I have a recording of Victoria talking to you on the phone, where you accept your share of the money, where she reminds you that it was all your idea. Caleb was left speechless. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. I saw it in his eyes, the moment he knew he was trapped, the moment he knew he could no longer lie. Mum, let me explain. There is nothing to explain. I heard it all, with your own words. You planned to get married to rob me. You used the money I paid for your wedding to renovate my house, knowing Victoria would claim it later. And when you divorced, you took every last cent I had left, all while you pretended to be the victim of a failed marriage. I didn't want to. Things got out of control. You didn't want to what? Didn't want to betray your mother? Didn't want to steal from the woman who raised you alone? From the woman who worked until she destroyed her body so you would have food on the table? My voice remained calm, but every word came out with force. Tell me, Caleb, at what moment exactly did things get out of control? When you asked me to pay for your wedding? When you let Victoria renovate my house? Or when you counted my money and decided how much was yours? I was desperate. I had debts. I didn't know what else to do. You could have asked me for help, as a mother, as family, but you didn't. You chose to steal from me. You chose to deceive me. Caleb ran his hands through his hair. He was shaking. Withdraw the lawsuit, please. Mom, if this goes to court, I am going to lose my job. I could go to jail. My life will be ruined. Your life. I repeated those words slowly. And what about my life, Caleb? Did you care about my life when you took everything from me? I will pay you back the money. Everything. I promise. Just give me time. You had time. You had your whole life to be a good son. And you chose this. You cannot do this to me. I am your son. And I was your mother. That didn't stop you. I saw his eyes fill with tears. Tears that maybe were real, or maybe were just another manipulation. I could no longer tell. I no longer trusted anything that came from him. Go, Caleb. My lawyer will communicate with yours. Everything will be done legally, as it should be. Mom, go. I closed the door. I heard him pounding on the other side. I heard him screaming my name. I heard him crying. But I did not open it again. I stood there, on the other side of that door, with Maya by my side, waiting for him to leave. Eventually, the knocking ceased. The screaming stopped. I heard his footsteps walking away down the hall. I heard the elevator noise, and then just silence. I collapsed into the recliner. I did not cry. I had no tears left. I just felt empty, as if something inside me had died. Maya sat next to me and hugged me. She said nothing. She was just there, and that was enough. That night I received a text message from Caleb. It was long, full of apologies, full of explanations. It said he was sorry, that he had made a terrible mistake, that he loved me, that I was the most important thing in his life. I did not reply. The next day I received another message. This one was from Victoria. It was completely different from Caleb's. There were no apologies, only threats. Eleanor, withdraw that ridiculous lawsuit. I legally invested in your house. I have all the documents that prove it. If you insist on this, you are going to regret it. I know lawyers much better than yours. I am going to leave you with nothing. I showed the message to David. He laughed. Excellent. You just gave me more evidence. This is intimidation. threats. Add it to the case. The following days were a roller coaster of emotions. Caleb kept calling. He kept sending messages. Some were pleading, others were accusatory. He blamed me for ruining his life. He told me I was a terrible mother, that I had never understood him, that I had always been too hard on him. It was incredible how, in his mind, he was the victim. Victoria also kept sending messages, more aggressive each time, more threatening each time, until David sent her a cease and desist letter. After that, her messages stopped. A week after the service, David called me with news. Mrs. Collins, Victoria's lawyer, got in touch. They want to negotiate a settlement. What kind of settlement? They are offering to return the $20,000 for the renovations. But they do not want to return what you paid for the wedding and the honeymoon. They say that was a gift. It was not a gift. It was part of the plan. She says it in the recording. I know. That is why we are going to reject the offer. We are going to ask for everything, $40,000. Plus dommages, plus legal fees. Do you think they will accept? If they do not accept, we go to trial. And with the evidence we have, they will lose. They know it. Their lawyers know it. It is just a matter of time. 2 weeks later, there was another offer. This time they offered $30,000. They were getting closer. What do you want to do? David asked me. I thought about it. $30,000 was more than I had lost. But it was not enough. It was not just about the money. It was about justice. It was about them acknowledging what they did. I want the $40,000. I want a public admission of guilt. I want Caleb and Victoria to sign a document where they accept they conspired to defraud me. And I want that document to be public. David smiled. That is going to hurt them more than the money. I know. I will communicate your terms. The response came 3 days later. They rejected the offer. They said they would never admit guilt publicly, that they would rather go to trial. Perfect, I told David. Let's go to trial. But something was about to happen that none of us anticipated. Something that would change everything. Maya called me one afternoon, her voice full of urgency. Eleanor, turn on the news. Channel 5. Now, I turned on the TV and found the channel. And there, on the screen, was Victoria. But not in a normal interview. She was being escorted out of her office by police officers. The news anchor was speaking. In other news, a local real estate agent was arrested today on multiple fraud charges. Victoria Fajardo faces accusations from at least 5 different victims who allege she utilized fake marriage schemes to defraud them financially. I froze, staring at the screen. Other victims. It had not been just me. It had not been just the man Maya told me about. There were more. Many more. My phone rang. It was David. Are you watching the news? Yes. This changes everything. The state attorney's office took the case. They are investigating Victoria for systematic fraud. And Eleanor, your recording, your evidence, was key for them to obtain an arrest warrant. The other victims did not have such solid proof. But you did. And Caleb. He is also being investigated. As an accomplice, I hung up the phone and sat down. Everything was coming to light. The truth was being exposed. And although it hurt that my son was involved, I knew this was necessary. Not just for me, but for all the people Victoria had hurt. Justice, finally, was arriving. The following days were a media chaos. The Victoria Fajardo case was on all the newscasts. More details came out every day. More victims. More stories of older people who had been deceived. Men and women who trusted her and ended up losing their life savings. I did not give interviews. David advised me to keep a low profile while the case ran its course. But other victims did speak. I saw a 70-year-old man crying on television, telling how Victoria married him, renovated his house, and then left him with nothing. I saw an older woman whose daughter had fallen into the same scheme. Story after story, all the same, all tragic. And in all of them, Victoria appeared as a calculating predator who took advantage of the loneliness and trust of vulnerable people. 3 weeks after the arrest, David called me for a meeting. Eleanor, I have news. The prosecutor has a solid case. With your recording, with the testimonies of other victims, with the bank records they found, Victoria is going to face between 5 and 10 years in prison. And Caleb, David sighed. Your son is cooperating with the prosecutor. He is testifying against Victoria in exchange for a reduced sentence. He says she manipulated him, that he did not really know what they were doing. I felt a mix of emotions. Rage because he kept lying. Relief because maybe he would not go to prison for so long. Sadness because he was my son and I had lost him anyway. Do you believe him? Personally? No. The recording you have proves he was the one who initiated the plan. But the prosecutor is willing to accept his testimony because it makes the case against Victoria even stronger. What sentence will he get? Probably 2 years of probation. Community service. Full restitution of all the money he took from you. And he will have a criminal record. That will affect his life for a long time. I nodded slowly. 2 years of probation did not seem enough. But at least there would be consequences. At least he would not walk free as if nothing had happened. And there is more, David continued. The company where Victoria worked fired her. They are facing lawsuits because it turns out she used company resources to investigate her potential victims. She accessed property records, financial information, everything through her work. The company had no idea. She will lose her real estate license. She already lost it, and she has civil lawsuits from at least 10 people. Even if she gets out of prison eventually, she will be paying restitution for the rest of her life. I felt cold satisfaction hearing that. It was not joy. It was simply the feeling that justice was finally happening. And my money? Ah, yes, that is what I wanted to tell you. The judge ordered the seizure of Victoria's bank accounts. They also seized a car in her name and some investments. With all that, you will recover the full $40,000, maybe a little more for damages. $40,000. Everything I had lost, plus the years of interest I could have earned. It did not compensate for the pain. It did not compensate for the betrayal. But it was something. How long will it take? The legal process can take several months. But I want you to know something else, Eleanor. Several of the other victims contacted me. They want to meet you. They want to thank you. Your recording, your evidence, your courage in suing was what blew the lid off this whole case. Without you, Victoria would still be doing this. She would still be destroying lives. Those words hit me hard. I had not thought about that. I had not thought that my decision to fight would affect other people. I just wanted justice for myself. But unintentionally, I had helped many others. I do not know if I am ready to meet them, I said honestly. You do not have to. I just wanted you to know. You are a heroine to them. I did not feel like a heroine. I felt tired, empty, as if I had fought a war and won, but at a terrible cost. A week later, Caleb tried to see me again. This time he did not come to my house. He sent me a letter, a long letter, handwritten, that arrived by certified mail. I left it on the table for 2 days without opening it. I was not sure I wanted to read what it said, but finally one night I opened it. Mom, I know I have no right to ask you for anything. I know what I did is unforgivable. I do not expect you to forgive me. I do not expect you to speak to me again. I just need you to know a few things. First, I am sorry. I am sorry I hurt you. I am sorry I betrayed you. I am sorry I was such a terrible son after everything you did for me. Second, I want you to know that Victoria did manipulate me. I am not saying I am innocent, the idea was mine, but she made it grow. She convinced me it was not wrong. She told me you had more money than you needed. She made me believe we were just borrowing it. I was weak. I was greedy. I was a coward. And I paid the price. I lost my job. I lost my reputation. And worst of all, I lost you. I do not ask you to forgive me. I only ask that you know I am remorseful, that if I could turn back time, I would change everything, that I love you, even though my actions showed otherwise. Your son who does not deserve to be, Caleb. I folded the letter and put it away. I did not cry. I had no tears left for Caleb. Maybe one day I could forgive him. But that day was not today. Maybe it would never come. Victoria's trial was quick. With all the evidence against her, her lawyer advised her to plead guilty in exchange for a lesser sentence. She accepted. 7 years in prison. Full restitution to all her victims. Probation for 5 additional years after getting out. I was present the day of the sentencing. Sitting in the back of the room, watching. Victoria walked in handcuffed, dressed in an orange prison uniform. She no longer looked like the confident, arrogant woman I knew. She looked small, scared, defeated. When the judge read the sentence, she did not react. She only lowered her head. Her lawyers tried to argue for a lesser sentence, but the judge was clear. Mrs. Fajardo, you systematically took advantage of elderly people, vulnerable people who trusted you. You destroyed their lives without remorse. This court does not tolerate that kind of conduct. I hope you use these years in prison to reflect on the harm you caused. They led her out of the room in handcuffs. At no moment did she look at me. Maybe she did not even know I was there. Or maybe she simply did not care. Caleb received his sentence 2 weeks later. As David had predicted, 2 years of probation, 500 hours of community service, and the order to pay full restitution. $40,000 that he would have to pay me in installments over the next few years. I did not go to that hearing either. I did not want to see him. David represented me and kept me informed. A month later, I received the first check, $20,000. Coming from Victoria's seized accounts, David told me the rest would arrive in the coming months as they liquidated her other assets. I looked at that check for a long time. It was just a piece of paper. But it represented justice. It represented that I had fought and I had won. I deposited it in my bank account. And then I sat down to think about what I would do now. I was 72 years old. I had my house. I had my money back. But I had lost my son. I had lost the illusion of a family. What was left for me? Maya came to visit me that afternoon. She brought wine and food. We sat in my living room, in that renovated living room that was already starting to feel mine again. "How do you feel?" she asked me. I do not know. Empty, relieved, sad, all at the same time. It is normal. You went through something terrible. But Eleanor, I want you to know something. You are one of the strongest women I know. Many people in your place would have given up. They would have stayed quiet. They would have accepted being victims. But you fought. And you did not just win for yourself. You helped many other people. I do not feel strong. Strength does not always feel like strength. Sometimes it feels like just moving forward when everything in you wants to give up, and that is exactly what you did. We drank our wine in silence. Then Maya said something that changed my perspective. Do you know what you should do now? You should travel, see the world, do all those things you always wanted to do but never could because you were working or taking care of Caleb. Now you have your money back. You have time. You have your life. Live it for yourself. I thought about her words. Travel. Know new places. Do things for me and only for me. The idea scared me a little. But it also excited me. Maybe I will, I said finally. Not maybe. Do it. You deserve it. That night, after Maya left, I took out a notebook and started writing. Not a letter. Not a diary. It was a list. A list of all the things I wanted to do. Places I wanted to see, experiences I wanted to have. For the first time in months, I felt something resembling hope. My life had not ended. It was just beginning a new chapter, one where I was the protagonist, not the mother, not the victim, just me. 6 months after the sentencing, I received the last payment. The full $40,000 were back in my bank account, plus the interest and damages the judge had ordered. In total, I recovered $45,000. But the money was no longer the most important thing. The most important thing was what I had discovered about myself in this process. I had discovered that I was stronger than I thought, that I could face terrible betrayals and survive, that I could fight for what was mine and win. One spring morning, I made a decision. I would sell the house, that house full of painful memories, that house Victoria had renovated with my money. That house where I raised a son who betrayed me. I no longer wanted to be there. I hired a real estate agent. It was not difficult to sell it. The renovations had increased its value considerably. The irony did not escape me. Victoria had invested $20,000 renovating my house to be able to claim them later. But in the end, those renovations made it so I could sell the house for much more than it was worth before. I sold the house for $120,000. After paying the agent and some expenses, I was left with $110,000. Added to the $45,000 I had recovered, I had $155,000. More money than I had had in my entire life. With that money, I bought a small condo in another part of the city, far from the memories, far from the pain, a new place where I could start over. It cost $60,000. I paid cash. For the first time in my life, I owned my home without owing anyone anything. I also bought something I never thought I would buy. A car. New, nothing fancy but mine. And I signed up for driving lessons. At 72 years old, I would finally learn to drive. My first lessons were terrifying. The instructor had to constantly remind me to breathe. But little by little, I was learning. I was gaining confidence. And 3 months later, I passed the exam and got my driver's license. The day I received my license, I cried. Not from sadness, from joy, from freedom. I would no longer depend on anyone to move around. I could go where I wanted, when I wanted. Maya organized a small celebration in my new apartment. She invited some of her friends, women my age who had also gone through difficult situations. Women who understood what it meant to rebuild yourself after a betrayal. That night, one of them told me something I will never forget. Eleanor, your story inspires us all. It shows us that it is never too late to defend ourselves, that we are never too old to demand respect. Those words stayed with me. I started writing. I did not know exactly what I was writing at first. I just let the words flow. I wrote about my life, about my struggles, about my betrayal, about my victory. Page after page, my story took shape. Maya suggested I share it. There are many women who need to hear this, who need to know they are not alone, that they can fight. So I did. I started sharing my story in support groups for seniors, in community centers, anywhere they invited me to speak. At first, it terrified me to stand in front of a group of people. But then, I saw their faces. I saw their tears. I saw how my words resonated with them. A woman approached me after one of my talks. Her eyes were red from crying. My son is doing exactly what yours did to you. He is asking me for money constantly. He says it is for emergencies. But I suspect he is lying to me. I did not know what to do. I thought it was my obligation to give him everything. But listening to you, I realized I have the right to protect myself. Thank you. In that moment, I knew sharing my story had been the right decision. If I could help, even just one person, avoid what I went through, it would be worth it. I also started traveling. Small trips at first. I drove to the beach for the first time in my life. I sat on the sand and watched the ocean for hours. Then I traveled to other cities. I visited museums, parks, places I had only seen in photographs. A year after the sentencing, Caleb tried to contact me again, this time through Maya. He asked her to tell me he wanted to see me, that he had changed, that he was going to therapy, that he understood the harm he had caused me. I thought about it for weeks. Part of me wanted to see him. He was my son, after all. But another part, the part that had learned to protect itself, knew I was not ready. Maybe I would never be ready. I told Maya to tell him not yet, that maybe someday, but not now. Caleb sent one last letter after that. It was short. It simply said, "I understand. I will wait. I love you, Mom." I kept that letter in a drawer. I did not read it more than once. I did not need to. 2 years after everything happened, I found myself driving down a highway I had never traveled. The sun was starting to set. Music was playing on my radio. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt at peace. I had lost a lot. I had lost my money. I had lost my son. I had lost the illusion of a perfect family. But I had gained something more valuable. I had gained myself. I had learned that I did not need anyone to validate my existence, that I could be alone without feeling lonely, that I could be happy, simply being me. I arrived at a scenic overlook and parked the car. I got out and walked to the edge. From there you could see the whole city. The lights were starting to turn on. The sky was dyed orange and pink. I thought about everything that had happened, about the pain, about the betrayal, about the fight, about the victory, and I realized something important. That terrible experience had destroyed me, but it had also rebuilt me. And the woman I was now was stronger than the one I had been before. I took out my phone and took a photo of the sunset. I posted it in the support group I now coordinated. I wrote underneath, "It is never too late to start over. We are never too old to defend ourselves. We are never so broken that we cannot rebuild ourselves." To all the women going through something similar, I want to tell you, you are stronger than you think. Fight for what is yours. Fight for your dignity. Fight for yourselves. I did it. And although the road was difficult, it was worth it. Because now, finally, I am free. Within minutes, comments started coming in. Women of all ages sharing their stories, thanking me for giving them strength, telling me I had inspired them. I put my phone away and took a deep breath. The fresh air filled my lungs. I looked at the horizon one last time before returning to my car. I was 74 years old. I had lived a life full of sacrifice, of pain, of betrayals, but also of strength, of justice, of rebirth. And the best of all is that I still had a lot left to live, many places to see, many experiences to have, many women to help. My story did not end with my son's betrayal. That was just a chapter. A painful chapter, yes, but not the end. The end is written by me. And it will be a happy ending, because I deserve it. I got in my car, started the engine, and drove toward my new life. A life where I was the protagonist. A life where no one would ever take advantage of me again. A life worth living. And as I drove back home, I smiled. A genuine smile. A smile of someone who finally found peace. If my story touched your heart, if you identified with my pain or my strength, leave me a comment. Tell me your story, because we all have one. And together, sharing our experiences, we become stronger. Never forget, you have worth. Your years of life give you wisdom, they do not make you vulnerable, and it is never, never too late to defend yourself. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Thank you for listening to my story. And if you know someone who needs to hear it, share it. Maybe it is exactly what they need, to find the strength to fight. Until the next story, love yourselves, value yourselves, and never let anyone take what is yours. With love, Eleanor.